Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to Myth Busting Mondays. In today's episode, for the final myth, we are going to be testing if whether or not it is possible that the hunter can pounce through solid glass. And I really am looking forward to this one because there's a specific piece of glass in mind that I really want to test this on. And this is going to end up being the dead center panic event on chapter 3, where you end up shooting the glass to end up turning off the mall alarm. So that is going to be something that I really want to see and really want to test. So if you guys end up enjoying today's video and you're excited for that myth too, make sure you end up dropping a like, comment, and subscribe to show your guys' support. And if you guys have any Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood myths that you would like to see featured in next week's episode, just please put them in the comment section down below. But anyways guys, as always, let's get started with this week's episode of Myth Busting Mondays. Myth: if the witch is on fire, can you put it out with water? Alright everybody, so for the first myth of the episode, this is submitted in by Dan. So Danny Boy's myth is going to be, can the witch be put out if she is on fire? So the best way to put out the witch if she is on fire is just to have her run into water, and the best way we're going to be able to do that is by playing on the finale of Death Toll, because at the boathouse there is extremely deep water, enough to completely submerge a player if they are crouching. It makes this the prime spot to do the myth testing. So we're going to be spawning in a witch here in a second, and then we're going to Molotov her to set her on fire, and we're just going to run into the water and see if she ends up being put out if she chases us into the water itself. Alright everybody, myth testing time. So here we go. Dan's going to light the witch on fire with a Molotov now, and he's going to very shortly jump into the water itself, so that way the witch will also jump in, and you are going to see here something pretty interesting. The witch does not end up being put out. She actually continues to be on fire until she dies from the Molotov, which means that the water, as far as I'm aware, even in its deepest possible area in the map, does not end up saving her. Now, I was really shocked to see this because this does not make any sense by any stretch of the imagination. Water does put out fire, so I decided to do this so we can have a second go at this, and the exact same thing happens. The witch is on fire, and even if I submerge myself, I thought that I would just like go under the water fully and I go into third person to look, and she is still on fire as if that I ended up just staying on land. And you want to know what's the weirdest thing of all? The tank can actually be put out in the water if he is lit on fire, but not apparently the witch. Here's some example footage right now. I'm going to light the tank on fire, and the moment that he touches the water without even barely being in, he is immediately put out, which I think is quite ridiculous. It must be something to do with a balancing thing in Versus is my guess, but I do find it kind of funny how that there's no consistency with which special effect is allowed and not allowed to be put out by the water. So specifically, at least for the witch, this is going to end up being busted. The water and pretty much any other method that I could think of would not put the witch out if she was on fire, because within the means of the game, the water is the best bet, and if this doesn't work, I don't even think that there's anything else that could possibly do it, unless there's some random fluke and something that we have not thought of whatsoever, but the amount of time that would be worth investing would just not be worth it, so I'm completely happy labeling it as busted. Myth: can the tank kill the witch if she is in aggressive mode? Okay guys, so for our next myth, this is submitted in by Nitwit. Now, this myth is funny. The results were hilarious. I just couldn't end up controlling my laughter when I was watching this, because you're going to see that the tank is going to do something that you're most likely expecting him to do, but I just couldn't control my laughter while seeing it in real time. Every single time that the witch would end up being hit by the tank, they would go flying, and they would just be completely and utterly destroyed. This is some of the most aggressive pimp slapping type of power I have ever seen in my entire life. This tank just brutally just destroyed these witches in one KO, and it was just funny to see it. So this myth is obviously completely confirmed, but I just thought that I would end up giving you guys a little bit of comedic value within this myth. Myth: can a charger get a double kill on the survivors if they're reviving someone hanging on a ledge? Alrighty guys, so for the next myth, this is submitted in by Glabersko. Now, we are going to be testing this on the infamous charger spot, which is going to end up being the ledge that is on the hotel in Chapter 1 of Dead Center. So, Tyler is going to hang off of the ledge here in a second, and I'm going to try to revive him while in third person, so that way you can see the charger trying to charge me in the back. And the idea is we just want to see if whether or not that, if I'm trying to revive Tyler, but he hasn't standed completely back up and that bar has not been full, does Tyler end up dying by the charger as well? or does the game keep him intangible and keep him locked into place? And so here we go with the results, and it looks like that immediately is quite obvious what we ended up seeing, but we did want to be sure about whether or not that our theories were right, so we wanted to test one more thing, which was going to end up being player collision. The way that we are going to be testing this is that Tyler is going to end up being downed just on the strip of building by itself and doing nothing other than just being in the Charger's way. And you guys can see that because the Charger just ran past Tyler, that Tyler is indeed intangible because he did not block the Charger because the Charger had nowhere else to go. So that means that unless a player is completely standing up, that they cannot be killed by a Charger if they're already hanging on a ledge, which means that this myth is going to end up being busted. So the Charger, even though he's got a lot of perks, especially on this specific spot of the map, he does not have the ability to kill somebody that is already downed. Myth: can the Boomer survive 3 melee hits? Okay, now I know immediately what you're thinking. You are immediately calling this bullshit. I understand. I can completely empathize with you. But guys, here's the thing, is that with Myth-Busting Mondays, I have been proven wrong on so many different myths, and even though this one I also agree with you, I call bullshit, I just had to test it for the smallest, the tiniest possibility that this was real. And I just wanted to see it for myself, because if this happens, I am stupefied. But the idea is that you just melee the Boomer in the foot, and that's supposedly how this is going to work. So we're going to spawn in a Boomer that's idle, and we'll just hope for the best. So here we go, guys. So each one of us is going to take a turn swinging, so that's 1. So now that's at least promising. Then there's 2. That's really promising. I am very surprised. 3. Holy shit, this is actually working. And then 4, he explodes. So what do you know? I am stupefied. I was wrong, and this myth is 100% confirmed. The Boomer can survive multiple melee attacks. I guess that we just shoot the Boomer so instinctively that he's already worn down by bullets so much of the time. Either that or we just aim at his upper mass with a melee weapon, because I don't know anybody that deliberately shoots him or melees him in the foot. But yeah, the Boomer can survive not 1, not 2, but all the way up to 3 different melee swings. And this works with all the weapons, just minus the chainsaw, because the chainsaw is kind of in its own category. But that's cool. What do you know? Alright everybody, so here we go, we're towards the end of the episode, and now it's time for the final myth. I am really excited to see if whether or not that the myth result that I'm thinking of in my head is going to end up being the result that we're going to get, or if it's going to end up being for not. But instead of talking about it, I know you just guys want to see straight to the gameplay, so here we go everybody, let's end up doing the final myth of today's episode. Myth: can the Hunter jump through solid glass? Alright everybody, the final myth of today's episode is being submitted in by my buddy Tyler. So Tyler, your myth is going to be tested on a multitude of different maps, my G. The first location we're going to be testing this on is going to end up being on the 3rd chapter of No Mercy, right before you end up taking the window cleaner lift. But we're going to spawn a Hunter in this room on the opposite side before any of the glass is broken, and just see if his targeting AI will end up coming after us. So we have Tyler in the room now, and he's just going through his console commands, and we're just going to be waiting on the other side and seeing whether or not that he gets aggro or not, because that is going to determine whether or not that we're even going to have him break the glass, because he needs to end up attacking the players that are within the lobby. So here's our first attempt at this, guys. So we're going to be backing off now after we spawned him in, and you can see that he does indeed break the glass, but the glass does stop him, and the Hunter has to pounce again to end up continuing to pursue us. But that is a really solid start, and that is really nice, and even though I could just say it's confirmed right there, I want to do a little bit more testing just to make sure that he's allowed to do it on multiple pieces of glass, or if it's just this one specifically. Alrighty guys, so for the second attempt, we are going to be going down to the restaurant down below on the exact same map, and we're going to be spawning a Hunter in this way, and seeing if he can break through this glass as well, because it might be different materials because of the way it's constructed, and you can see that the Hunter does indeed break this glass as well. Now the last one which I want to test, and the one that I'm most excited for, is going to end up being on the 3rd chapter of Dead Center, where on Dead Center there's going to end up being a panic event that you could get, where you end up having to shoot through some glass within a store and then turn off the security alarm. If the Hunter can break this prematurely, this will change the flow of verses. So we're going to be spawning him in here in just a second once the director makes up its mind on which path it would like us to go. And once we end up getting the Hunter, I'm just going to spawn him in on the outside where he would end up being normally, and I'm just not going to shoot the glass right away and just let the Hunter do his own thing and just see what happens. So here we go, the door is going to be open here in just a second. We're going to be located in the room, and I'm going to spawn in the Hunter very shortly here. Alrighty guys, so here we go. This is it. And as you guys can end up seeing from the gameplay with your very eyes, the interesting thing that happens is that even though he can't break the glass, he can hit me through the glass, which is something that I was not expecting. That's the most random result of all. It's in between. He can end up hitting me regardless if the glass is broken, as long as I am right up and against the glass. But very, very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. So where does that leave the results for this final myth here today? So with the final myth, I'm going to be labeling this as confirmed because the prior pieces of glass the hunter has zero problem with. And even though the panic event does make an exception because it's unique upon itself and doesn't allow the hunter to jump blatantly through it, he can end up injuring you from it. So since he can't do all, but he can do some, I am labeling it as confirmed, and you really should be careful because a window is not going to keep you safe from the beast, the hunter. Alrighty everyone, so that is the final myth of this week's episode, and I do truly hope you ended up enjoying it. If you did, please consider dropping a like, comment, and subscribe and all that beautiful stuff. It means a lot more than you think it does and allows YouTube to recommend my content to more people. So if you guys would end up helping me out and leaving a like and sharing so that way we can meet other meme lords, I'd be eternally grateful. If you guys also, by the way, have your own myths that you would like to see featured in next week's episode, whether they be Left 4 Dead and or Back 4 Blood, please put them in the comment section down below. If you guys would like to financially support the channel, I would tremendously appreciate if you guys could go check out my Patreon. It's always linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions. Or you guys could use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite Epic Games item shops, because Epic is my very first sponsor and they are sponsoring today's video. So shout outs to Epic Games. But yeah, everybody, I hope you end up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys. I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey meme lords, Jesus here, and you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too, and give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!
Myth. Can Tyler get bitches? Nope, but he can most certainly get
these nuts.